What's up, guys? Long time no see. I think it's been about a month or maybe even more since I recorded a game, but I've been playing a fair amount recently. Kind of been inspired by the Breya design, which my friend Nate, of course, is always constantly innovating on. And the last time I actually was playing this deck, I was trying out the combination of Transmute Artifact and Bolas's Citadel, which was very powerful, but felt through testing over a gamut of games, it sort of felt like a little bit win more. And it also felt like having two kind of necropotent style effects in the deck didn't really work out well. Obviously, slamming the Citadel or transmuting into it against a fairly weak deck would allow you to win almost instantaneously, but kind of anything does that anyway. And the problem is that the more streamlined and effective your opponent's decks get, they tend to run more counter magic and more disruption. And 6-mana spells or things where you sacrifice to play a spell become increasingly unreliable. And I'm not completely convinced that the Citadel doesn't belong in the deck, along with Transmute Artifact, but for the time being, they've been relegated, both those cards have been relegated to the sideboard in favor of two other things, which we are currently testing out. So I've got the current deck list right here for the games that are going to be upcoming. I think I've got about 3 or 4 games to record. And the first of the cards is this guy, the Thieving Skydiver. Brand new card, just printed. Honestly, this card is ridiculous. I think it's sort of an auto-include in any deck with blue right now. Given the fact you can pay 3 mana to steal a Soul Ring or a Mana Crypt or a Mana Vault, you can even pay additional extra mana, pay 4 total to steal something like a Signet, and it just ramps up forever. And as you know from just a single use of Dak Faden, being able to steal an artifact from your opponent for 3 mana is incredibly powerful just in terms of the tempo that it gives you. It accelerates you, it slows them down. It'll often just win the game on the spot. I don't know how many times I've had people concede to a turn 2 or a turn 3 Dak Faden. And so the Thieving Skydiver, I think, has a nice spot in this deck, along with the fact that it can be Skull Clamped later, it can carry equipment, it's a flyer. Certainly this card will go in my Edric deck 100%. I don't know if I'm going to run it in Nin yet. I probably will run it in Nin as well, given the fact that Nin can always use targets to shoot, and you just can't have enough ways to deal with Soul Ring and Mana Crypt, really. So been very impressed by the Thieving Skydiver so far, and I'm sure that I'll be playing it going forward. And then the other card is a little bit more innocuous, I think. It's Mazemind Tome, which Nate was really bullish on. I was a little skeptical about it, but then I tried it out, and I honestly feel that in terms of where the card kind of slots into what the deck is trying to do, it is extremely powerful, particularly against the kind of decks that tend to give Breya trouble, which are decks that have a low mana curve and a lot of early cheap counters and disruption. If you're able to slip a Mazemind Tome down on turn 2 or something, the incremental and kind of inevitable card advantage becomes really problematic for your opponent. Plus, you have the ability to get it back with Yawgmoth's Will later, and of course you can also sacrifice it to Breya due to the fact that it's an artifact. So it does seem a little bit slow and silly, getting 4 cards slowly over many turns, but paying 8 mana, well, I guess 10 total, 10 mana to draw 4, but spread out over lots of turns, is surprisingly strong. And that's generally where the deck tends to stumble, is where you just have mana, but you don't really have a lot of things to do with it other than just Chaincaster Commander. So for the time being, I'm running Mazemind Tome. Really been impressed by it so far, and I will continue to use it until something seems better. Anyway, like I said, I played a bunch of games with this deck, and so I'm going to hop over to the first of those games right here. I'm up against IOK, and I think I played this guy a few times in the past. We actually played a 3-game series, and I will be recording all 3 games, but this is the first game of the series. And he is running, just give it a minute here, there we go, the dreaded Animar, Soul of Elements. And one part of the reason why I wanted to showcase these games is because IOK has what seems to be a really, really good version of this deck. I haven't run him against too many decks, or too many versions of Animar decks that I felt were particularly difficult to deal with. And but the fact that it's pro white and black, those are 2 of Breya's colors, obviously it'd be hard not to be. So you're unable to use your commander to remove the Animar, and it can grow out of control really, really fast, particularly if you're able to draw creatures that cantrip into other creatures, and it can just build and build and build and reach critical mass in just a few turns. Usually the strategy is just keep Animar from coming into play in the first place, and I'm aided in that way tremendously, I think, this game by going first. Yeah, so I think I'm going first here. Yeah, I'm going first. So having a mana drain on turn 2 means that even if he has a turn 1 accelerator like a Bird of Paradise or something, I'll be able to stop the card cold, so feeling very confident about the draw, even though the rest of the draw is fairly mediocre. Mox Opal obviously not doing much until I draw Breya. Let's see what happens here. Ooh, fancy. Look at that. alternate art polluted Delta. This guy's deck is filled with all sorts of random weird alternate art stuff, and he's got Arbor Elf on turn 2, or turn 1, so I'm very, very glad to have Mana Leak here as a way to stop the Animar. And of course, I'm just going to play another fetch land here. I'm a little reluctant to just throw these out there normally because of the fact that they work so well with the Mystic Sanctuary, but I do have 3 of them and plenty of time, so I'll just hold off on that third one. I'm tapping Tropical Island. He's got Cavern of Souls, alternate artwork. I have no idea what the hell this thing is. It sure doesn't look like a cavern. It just looks like a weird cube thing. But unfortunately, my entire plan goes out the window here when he's got turn 2 Animar, uncounterable. Very, very brutal. So I'm going to sack both of my fetch lands right now just to filter. I'm going to get, obviously, Watery Grave and the Ralgren Triome. I think that's how it's pronounced. This is one card different from Nate's deck. He is actually not using the Triome, but I've been very impressed by it. I think having a Tri-land that you can fetch solves a lot of early mana problems. You kind of just get everything, and black is usually the one you're looking for. Mind Twist is interesting. Okay. Well, I can just play the... I was thinking about playing the Talisman of Progress and sitting on Mana Leak, but I figured that since this thing is naming Elemental, and this is an Elemental, and the Arbor Elf untaps Tropical Island, I kind of felt like killing off the Tropical Island over the Cavern of Souls or over the Arbor Elf made the most sense, and certainly over casting Talisman, following it up with Mana Leak, because he could do incredibly nasty things if he's got access to 4 mana next turn. He could literally play 3 or 4 creatures in one turn, and then this thing would just run amok. So because I drew Mind Twist, my plan was actually just to cripple his mana a bit, try to slow him down, and then hopefully just fire off a Mind Twist for 3 or 4, which takes most of the creatures out of his hand and prevents him from really buffing Animar before I'm able to deal with it with other cards. So that was the reason. Basically, Vindicate killing 2 land is super powerful. Let's see what he's got here. He's got, unfortunately, another Tropical Island, so kind of thwarts all my plans. Wild Canter. It's very interesting, very kind of combo-y. Can untap. And I place Wood Elves. This is so ugly. Just ridiculous. Animar already has 2 counters on it. So creatures are super discounted. He sacks, casts Phantasmal Image. That gets another counter on it. Remember what I was saying about just going off? Look at this insanity. He's got another creature as well. So in one turn, even though he only had just the Cavern of Souls, my opponent put 3 land in play and 3 creatures, or 4 creatures actually, and grew the Animar to a 5/5 already. Not looking good. All right, Stoneforge Mystic. Doesn't seem like it's that great right now, but this gives me the ability to get Sword of Feast and Famine. So if I can actually get a creature to stick that has that isn't white or black, I can throw the sword on it, and that'll allow me to deal with Animar Soul of Elements for the foreseeable future. But first thing I have to do is just get those cards out of his hand. So I'm just going to do that right now. Just let him have free reign. Hope he just doesn't draw anything particularly insane. I Mind Twist him, and I get Steam Vents, more alternate art stuff. This guy's deck is just full of these things. And a Rhythm of the Wild. Creatures you control can't be countered, and non-target token creatures have Riot. Wow, pretty nasty. All right. Glad to get that out of his hand. It's sort of like Fire's Yavimaya, but clearly way more powerful. All right. Well, I gotta just hope he just bricks for a while here. I get smashed for 9, but I have quite a bit of a buffer. All right, don't have anything, please. Whew. Man. He has so many lands in his deck I've literally never seen before. I've never seen this picture. Never seen this picture. I haven't seen this either. Scalding Tarn. Very, very cool online deck. All right. Well, I've drawn Teferi. Teferi is excellent card to draw, obviously, most of the time, but unfortunately, this thing is pro-white, so I can't tuck it into his library, which would be amazing. So for this turn, I think I just need to play Breya. You can see me tapping and retapping my land. I'm going to play Breya. That shuts off, turns the Mox Opal on. And I'm just going to cast this thing right now. Since he has no cards in hand, I'm just going to gamble. He also has a ton of mana. I mean, he's basically got 7, so... And his creatures cost practically nothing, so I don't really think I'm going to be able to really mana leak anything in the foreseeable future. I just need to kind of turtle up behind the Sword of Feast and Famine here and prevent myself from dying because I'm already down to 23, and the Animar is just growing out of control. So it's kind of a weak play, but I can't really be proactive at this stage. The Animar is just too threatening. And in fact, I can't really block it. He draws Allosaurus Shepherd. Jesus, can't be countered. I remember seeing this card in the spoiler fairly recently and thinking this card might find a place in my Omnath deck. I'm not completely certain that it belongs, but I do think it is pretty insane. I mean, I'm running the the Serpa card in my green deck right now, and it's a 3 mana that makes my guys uncounterable. But this says all green spells you control can't be countered, and that is pretty insane. So the fact that you can just push through the green planeswalkers and stuff, I think means that I certainly at least should play Allosaurus Shepherd in my Omnath deck whenever I play it multiplayer. I'm gonna have to pick up one. But regardless, he's got exactly enough mana to turn all of these freaking elves into 5/5s too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana, 6. So only the wood elves can become 5/5s currently, but next turn it'll be a lot worse. And of course, Animar becomes 6/6, and this allows him to attack with the wood elves as well. All right, well, I have to just take a bunch of damage here. Just sending a Thopter to block Animar so I don't die. Of course, he sacks, gets Taiga, and uses Allosaurus Rider and hits me for 10. Or Allosaurus Shepherd, sorry. Hits me for 10, that's a different card. Whew. All right, looking pretty bleak, but very, very glad I got Sword of Feast and Famine because it actually gives me a way to deal with this garbage. All right, Windswept Heath. Okay, so first things first, I can just play the sword for free. I think I made a little bit of a mistake here. I think I should have actually just put the sword on the Stoneforge Mystic, given the fact that it's not a blue creature, because I need to be able to throw the sword over onto the Thopter because it's blue and it can block this thing. So I actually made quite a bad mistake here. This should have gone on the Mystic, and I could have just attacked, hit him for 3, and then untapped all my land and had the blue flyer in play. But that allows me to untap my land, and I'm just going to play Teferi here. Draw a card. And I get Swords to Plowshares. Wow, very timely. Okay. Well, I would have liked to have moved the sword over onto the Stoneforge Mystic, but seeing as how I'm at 12, and I can't let Allosaurus Shepherd even untap, I was planning on just using the Breya's ability to just kill the Shepherd, since that's really the only thing I can do, and take some more damage here, and then hopefully just turtle up behind the sword. But drawing the swords is incredibly, incredibly good. So just Plowshare that. And this says end of turn. Then beginning of the next end tap. Oh, you know what I could have actually done? Yeah, that was a mistake as well. I didn't realize that these things untapped while I still had time. So I could have actually tapped these two to move the sword over. Yeah, see, that would have been such a better play. Put the sword here, attack, and then use Teferi's ability to, well, move the sword over onto the untapped Thopter, and then use Teferi's ability to untap 2 land and Plowshare the Allosaurus guy. And then I would have had a pro-green creature in play to block the Animar. Not so great. He plays Lotus Cobra with alternate art, taking the Animar up to 7/7. Now, unfortunately, because I cannot block a pro-white creature, I just lose Teferi for no reason. Pretty bad play, honestly. Should do better. All right. Well, now I got to get lucky and pull myself out of this. At least I can attack for damage now, and I don't take a bunch on the counterattack. Ooh. That's wonderful. Snapcaster Mage. Okey-doke. I'm going to throw the sword over here onto Breya. Now I've learned my lesson about leaving a pro-blue flyer back. Okay. Move the sword back over onto the Thopter. He can't really attack now. I can block here and just kill one of these things. Not too bad. I am down to 12, but it's a lot better than being dead. All he's got is a snow-covered mountain for some reason. And these guys come in. I'm just going to trade with the Cobra and block. Not too bad. Ooh, Dak Faden. Very nice. It's extremely useful. I can just use it right away to draw 2, and I get amazing cards off the top here. Vampiric Tutor and Duretti. Incredibly, incredibly timely. So as far as what to throw away here, Mana Leak's great, and I feel like he's got enough mana in play that it's unlikely to matter since he's got 6 counters on here. And the Vampiric Tutor I can throw away since Snapcaster can just cast it again anyway. So I throw this 2 away. I'll play the Duretti, make a token. I can attack here. And I have no idea why I did not move the sword over onto the construct. Pretty dumb. I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. I guess I just like to jump block. It just feels satisfying. And he just hit another land in a row. So his last few draws have been very uneventful. 3 or 4 land and a Lotus Cobra, which honestly sometimes happens to the Animar deck. You get it really big and you just don't draw anything but the things that make Animar better. All right, so end step, I'm going to use the Snapcaster to go cast Vampiric Tutor. Untap. What did I get, guys? That's right. Yawgmoth's Will. So delicious. Because look at all that. Look at all that insane stuff in my graveyard. Probably maybe should have even just given some thought to getting Treachery and just gaining control of Animar with Treachery. Taking a 7/7 and just beating him down with the rest of the guys. But I figure that Yawgmoth's Will probably get the job done too. I'm just going to play that. Play a fetch land. I can play Teferi from the graveyard. Use it to draw. Draw 2 with Dak Faden. Throw away 2 land. Yeah, I don't need the Winter Orb, obviously. It's not really going to do much. So I get a free attack here. Make a token. Nice. Goods are flowing now. And I'm going to play a Vindicate from the graveyard just to kill that thing off since there's not much else to do. I can Plowshare the Mystic just to cut some more mana off. And this turn, rightfully, I actually I didn't move the sword around because I wanted to just maximize the value off the Yawgmoth's Will. Animar looking awfully tiny. He just plays another land. Anemically charges in, just block it with the Defender, and this is looking pretty inevitable at this point. I can make a Construct and play the Skull Clamp. Clamp it down. Very nice. Wow. All right, so I can fabricate for Vidalcan Shackles, and I can shackle these Wood Elves and clamp them. It's not looking good for my opponent at this point. And throw away 2 land. And realizing how screwed he is, my opponent rightfully complains about the fact that he's drawn 5 or 6 mana sources in a row, which he does have my condolences for. But he did have a crazy start, and that is definitely one of the vulnerabilities of Animar, is that you can just draw crazy stuff, but if you don't get anything else to go with it, you'll often wind up stranded while your opponent just outvalues you with just simply better cards. And this is a good example of that. Despite a few little misplays from me, I was pretty happy with how the game turned out. And I thought it was a nice little demonstration of some Breya tools. I've got 2 more games against IOK coming up, so stay tuned. See you then.